My name is Christopher Harris Jr., and I am a graduate of Leadership Awakening.
I'm Jahaira Chris, and I'm a graduate of Leadership Awakening. I would have to say that we were not perfect. No marriage is perfect. We had our ups and downs, and I think it was just a lot of communication and a lot of barriers prior to us getting married. And once we learned how to communicate, it got better, but we needed to just break that wall.
So Marriage Before the Class, there was a lot of brokenness that was brought into the marriage from both sides. And because of that, me as a man, I wasn't able to love on my wife in the way that she deserved because I didn't love on myself enough to properly pursue to break those barriers and those chains that kept me from engaging my marriage in the way that it was intended. As a direct result of attending the class, I feel, and rather than just kind of responding, just sporadically, just off an impulse, it's more so stop, think about what you're saying. You have control over yourself and your responses. You don't have to just be instinctual and get the last word. It's not necessary. But like I stated, the feeling portion, I'm able to proactively love on my wife and listen to what she's saying. Like actually sit and be attentive and be present when listening versus just in the ear, in one ear and out the other. So I think she'll agree that was probably one of the better points.
Absolutely. Awesome. I think one of the things was, and I learned in the class, and I always sit at home, is you hear me but you don't listen. And communication is key when it comes to a marriage. Communication, and not just leaving everything stuffed in a box, not putting everything away or just brushing it off. There's just some things you literally need to sit down and talk to your partner, because if they're not resolved beforehand, then it's going to build up and build up. And that's one of the things that I used to do. I will leave things build up, and at the moment that you least expect it, everything will blow up. And it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I just left the spoon out. I'm sorry. Things like that. Little things that, you didn't realize. And this class, it literally showed me that I had so many unresolved issues within myself. And I had a lot of anger all the time, and I had a short fuse. And now I don't feel that anymore. I don't. If I have to correct my son, for example, you don't feel any type of anger or anything. No, you're not upset. It's just correcting properly the correct way, and then that's it. Let's move on with our day, and so on and so forth. So, it did change our lives. It really did.
So before taking the class, one of the things that I struggled with a lot that I didn't even realize I struggled with was just having self-worth and self-confidence and self. Oftentimes, other leaders at my workplace would state things like, oh man, you did a great job, or you're this, you're that. In a positive way, it was positive reinforcement, but I wouldn't see it. So I'd say, oh, maybe not. And they would view it as me being modest, when in reality, I just strictly didn't see what they saw in myself. The class really helped me dig deep and find that out. And I realized I matter. I offer a lot to the world. I offer a lot to my family, and it just kind of helped me reinforce the definitions that had been created, the positive definitions that have been created in my life and such. And I have a lot of self-worth now, and I know the impact that I do have in society and those that I come in contact with on a daily basis. From a man's perspective, one of the things that I know for a fact that men can gain from, traditionally, we are taught to keep our emotions bottled up inside and not display them in outward fashion for whatever reason. That is a complete lie. And what that does is it prevents you from being the best version of yourself, because you're holding all those things inside, and you don't heal from them because you don't ever deal with them. The class helped me to completely break free of those stereotypes and it doesn't mean I have waterworks on a regular basis, but at the same time, I am completely in touch with how I feel, and I express how I feel, not in a disrespectful manner or anything like that. If like, even if it's frustration or anything, but it's healthy to get those things out. And when we do that, it shows our vulnerable side as men, and that gives permission for others around us to do the same thing, and it gives permission for our wives to be there, you know, for support and things like that. And that just helps kind of build a stronger marriage in itself. What we can gain as husbands from the class is the ability to see our wives and our spouses as equals versus, you know, this, like, if you want to say pyramid, where they're on the bottom or we feel that we're greater than. It's a partnership. And you really, as you work with your team and things of that nature, you build a family. And even though your spouse is not there present with you, a lot of the things that you go through in the class kind of help you envision that being your spouse. And you have to work together to build just like this ball of love.
Before taking this class, I was very angry. I had a short fuse. I was always constantly, my mind was always a battlefield. I was constantly thinking, constantly worrying, stressed. Depression was always upon me. And after I took the class and after I found out what it was, what was the cause of me going through all these things, and I let everything go, by the end of the class, I felt great. I highly recommend it. It's something that a lot of people need to go to just find out what is wrong. At times that you feel like, you know, I don't know what's wrong, when you feel lost. I highly recommend it. Having anger and constantly thinking, my mind would not stop. Stressing, and now it's not like that anymore. I used to have trouble sleeping and constantly being angry, and not only, you know, at home, but outside. I just had a short fuse, and now little things don't bother me anymore. And it's very shocking a little bit, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, that didn't bother me. Oh, I just brush it off a little bit, you know, and oh, you know, it happens, you know, things like that. Before, you know, you start, no, you know, this is going to happen and I'm going to do this. And now it's just like, oh, just let it go. Let's just keep moving forward. There's better things that we could do with our time, you know, and energy than just argue about something so meaningless. From a woman's perspective, because women are, and like I said before, emotional creatures, and not to stereotype, we tend to hold on to things that we did not know we had. It comes from your childhood. It comes from, you know, your marriage, a failed relationship with your parents. And these are things that in this class you are able to encounter and see what is it, the root of all these things that you're going through. As a woman, as a mother, as a wife, you get tested in this class. You get challenged, because if you don't want to expose yourself, eventually you will. And I truly believe that, you know, women, we will, if many women will go to this class, you will see many leaders, many women being leaders today, and just women are just shutting down and just giving up. So I think that this will benefit them 100%. My son, one day he was just pushing my buttons constantly doing things on purpose. And I said, Zion, I wasn't getting upset as I usually would get, but I was getting to the point where it's like, hey, you know, I need you to stop. What's going on? And at the end, he's like, Mom, I'm sorry. I was just seeing if you really changed. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, I was just seeing if you really changed. And that hit me hard. It really did hit me hard. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that my son was so attentive. He notices that we'd be calling each other babe, or honey, or sweetie, and that's something that he's like, Mom, Dad, you know, you're calling Mom babe again. And I'm like, I didn't realize that my son was very, very aware of us and how we react, you know, interacted with each other. So,
well, I know for me specifically, one of the things that I struggled with up until now was the intimacy portion and just the affection. and such. And that didn't stem from our marriage. It's, you know, something that had existed prior to that I did break free from throughout the duration of the class. But I know on the way home from the class, all I wanted to do was come home and embrace my wife, and that's exactly what I did. I came in through the door like 3 o'clock in the morning from the class. She was there. I just gave her a hug, and I didn't say anything. It was just hold her, and that's literally that's probably the first time I've done that since I actually can't remember when. And that to me speaks volumes, because I'm not overly affectionate, but that is something that I am learning, and I will continue to do. This lady right here.
I just hope that, you know, women who are married go through it and then encourage their husbands to go, or vice versa. This is something that will help you in relationship to your kids, relationship to your husband. You'll know how to balance everything. Relationship with God above all things. So I recommend it. I highly recommend it 100%.
Again, this class changed my life. I've never experienced anything in my life that impacted me like this, to the point where I talk about it in such a state that just the energy that others see while I discuss this just makes them want to participate in the class that much more. It's a necessity to any good marriage, to building any good marriage, or even taking a good marriage to a great marriage to an excellent marriage. We all have things in our past that have affected us in some way, whether you lived the best life possible or you lived the worst life. And what this really helps you do is take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and kind of associate, where have you been, who are you, who will you be in the future, and as so long as you stay married to your spouse, that person experiences that individual as well. So if you collectively build up on who you are and what you want, all it's going to do is just make you all gel better together as a couple, and just kind of help you to live the best life that you possibly can together.
It's an eye-opener. This class is needed for any marriage. If you think you don't need it, you probably need it the most.